Thank you for joining us for The Drive Back, the movie podcast where we imitate our favorite thing to do after a movie, which of course is to talk about it on the ride home. I'm Garrett, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Adrian.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we have another first timers. What is a first timers, Adrian?
First timer, if you haven't listened for the last 3 months, is where both Garrett and I have not seen a film, and we both are watching it for the first time.
Absolutely, and today we've got a pretty heavy hitter, one where we've both been meaning to get to, which is Moonlight. Sorry, La La Land. Got the reverse issue from the Oscars there. Just kidding, little Oscars joke for you. But all that and more coming up on the drive back. Alrighty, as we said, first timers for La La Land, the multi-Oscar winner that was confused for Best Picture, which was quite an interesting situation. But let's go ahead and talk La La Land. Released in 2016, it was directed by Damien Chazelle and stars Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, and Rosemary DeWitt. While navigating their careers in Los Angeles, a pianist and an actress fall in love while attempting to reconcile their aspirations for the future. It won 6 Oscars for Best Actress for Emma Stone, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, and Best Original Song, and Best Production Design. It was nominated for 8 more, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Ryan Gosling, Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Editing, Best Costume Design, Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing, and Best Original Song again. It was a double nominee for Original Song. But, Adrian, what did you think of La La Land? Because this is both of our first times.
Yeah, I knew it was a musical. Or I guess I thought it was a musical. So I kind of knew that, but I had no idea what the storyline was or any reason why it was so celebrated. So I went in completely blind, and I really enjoyed it. It took me a while to kind of wrap my head around what they were going for. In the beginning, it felt kind of like a mix of a bunch of different styles. And that was really interesting. The opening number didn't really sell me on it. I think it was supposed to, but I think it more took away for me from the actual feeling. Like, it kind of confused me, actually, and I don't know. I guess I just didn't like that part. But I love the way that the romance is handled in this movie. I love the storyline. It feels real. All the characters feel really tangible and make real choices without making it over dramatic, or like nothing really blows up ever outside of a realistic frame of view. And I think it's really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I will disagree with one thing. I thought the song at the beginning was actually one of the stronger points of the movie, for me personally.
I think it's just the way that it opened right into it felt. I don't know. I have no reason. It just kind of really threw me for a loop. And I like musicals. Mm-hmm. It just seemed odd. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just weird because well, first off, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very, very good, and I think I do want to preface by saying I'm happy that I watched this now and not back in 2016, 2017 when all the hype was surrounding it, because I probably would not have enjoyed it as much. Because it would be like, oh, it's overhyped or whatever. And now that the hype has died down significantly, I feel like I was able to enjoy it more because I had no expectations.
Sure.
But I think that this movie, well, first off, it's gorgeous. This is a great looking movie. A lot of the sequences, but also this is a love letter to old Hollywood. Like this,
I think that's the point. Yeah.
If this had come out in 1950, it would have been Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds. It would have been like a Singing in the Rain type movie, because it's pretty much the same kind of story. You know, actresses and actors in Los Angeles, getting by.
Yeah.
So it's really does feel like a love letter to that, and in doing so, I think why it's so regarded by critics and especially the Academy was because they love letters to Hollywood. It's like, that's an Oscar nominee at least, if you can, look at old Hollywood. I mean, look at The Artist, look at Mank, look at, all these types of films that look back on Hollywood. You're gonna get some Oscar nominations. But let's discuss a little bit further. We're going to drop a spoiler warning for La La Land. Not that there's too much to spoil. There are some stuff at the end. There is a twist that I think we'll talk about that I didn't see coming. But if you do want to watch La La Land, it is available to stream on Hulu, and it is also available to rent as well.
I rented it. Interesting.
Yeah, I think I watched this on Wednesday, and the day before on Tuesday was on Amazon. On Wednesday, I saw that it was on Hulu, and I was like, oh, okay, how long was this there? It must have been added recently, or at the beginning of the month or something. But, but yeah, spoiler alert out of the way. Let's talk more in depth about La La Land. So, what are some more detailed thoughts you have? Some kind of spoilery thoughts regarding the film?
The way that they built up the relationship between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone was really, really well done. I think they both felt really real, like the passing comments, kind of the cutting jokes that they would make at each other. It felt pretty natural. I mean, there were times where it definitely had that, like, this only happens in a movie feeling, like, where they're communicating while he's up at that party, playing the piano guitar, and she, like, starts dancing specifically. Like, that all seemed a little weird, but, like, the conversations they had while they're walking, and just, like, the non-musical parts, honestly, to me, were some of the most realistic representation of trying to figure your life out with someone else. And it felt really relatable. It felt really honest, and it felt good. I mean, it was nice to watch them grow and make decisions that real people have to make. Like, especially when it came down to, obviously, the ultimatum of the film is, like, do you choose career or passion over your relationship? And ultimately, big spoiler, they decide, like, let's just go our separate ways. Like, but even at that point, right, Ryan Gosling cares so much about her that even though they're, quote, like, broken up, he still drives and finds her and says, you have an audition tomorrow. Like, you need to go now. Like, I don't care what we are, but I'm taking you. And then it's one of those things, right? They both got everything they wanted, but is that more than what they would have had they focused on each other? And I love the last, like, little bit that the movie actually shows you what would have been.
Yeah.
I think that is a very bold choice. A lot of films would just let it be. Like, oh, what could have been? But they show you. And to be honest, right, it's tough because they both lives are positive. Like, they both, in both scenarios, they get part of what they want, but not all of it.
Yeah.
And I think it was really, really interesting.
Which is a very, very good look. But also I wanted to bring up, you said the kind of idea of career versus, passion, I guess you could say. But they also bring up the effect that, relationships and your love have on those dreams, on those goals.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very real conversation at the dinner sequence, when, he's talking about, like, yeah, we're going on tour, and she's like, oh, is this going to be a thing? And he's like, yeah. And, like, the point when she's like, I thought you wanted me to get a steady job. And it takes you back to that moment when she necessarily didn't. It was her mom that asked if he had a steady job. So, it's kind of, that's very realistic. Like, you where you can get that sort of confusion that someone else is placing an expectation on you, not, you yourself. Or
and I think that was part of what was so realistic, is, like, at some point, especially, like, I've gone through a lot in these last 2 years, and it's tough to differentiate what your parents are expecting versus what you're expecting, right? It's a very weird line, because they're the people you talk to all the time if you have that relationship, or even your friends, right? It happens, you see it all the time with relationships. Your friends are like, oh, why are you with them? That shouldn't happen. And it's like, is that their view or is that your view? And you really have to grow and learn how to differentiate those two. And this movie does a really good job of kind of showing the repercussions of just small moves. Things that aren't huge, right? It's just the conversation. Hey, I want you to get a steady job. That affected the rest of their lives forever.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if I had the chance to play piano for John Legend, I mean, come on.
His name was Keith, okay?
Well, you know what I mean. But aside from the romance stuff, what did you think of the actual musical aspect of this movie? Do you think it was good?
I think the jazz was really good. Yeah. The actual, like, the playing of the instruments and the jazz itself. I thought the songs were just not my type of musical. I really, really enjoyed the cinematography, that everything with the lighting was in camera. When someone was singing, like the lights dimming, that the people were still there. It felt alive. It felt real, but it was actually changed. But one scene in particular that I really didn't enjoy, like I get that the songs had purpose and had meaning to the story, but the scene at the very end where she goes in for her casting call and they say, "Tell us a story," and she starts singing, I literally made a joke. I was like, and then she finishes and they go, "So that wasn't a story." And because of that, we have to void your contract. It's just like some of them seemed a little odd. Like I almost would have liked to hear the story about the ant in Paris more than a song about. I feel like the story would have weighed more because it was her acting, right? I want to see her act as an actor or an actress. So
Yeah.
the music itself, the singing fell a little flat for me, but the actual music, the orchestration was great.
Yeah, I think while watching this movie, the music is very good. I love jazz. I always have. I used to be a saxophone player. Of course, I gotta love it, right? And so I thought that was a really nice addition. And it was really fun listening to the songs as the movie went on, especially "City of Stars," which is the one I think that won the Oscar because it's used multiple times. It's kind of like the headliner song.
And it gets bigger every time they sing it. Like they add more to it every time.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that they're very good. However, after I finish the movie, they're not memorable.
No.
Like you're not singing them in your head. But again, this is a different kind of musical than something like Greatest Showman, where those are written by pop singers or anything like that. Like specifically like written like pop songs. They're written to be catchy, right? Whereas this one is written to convey a feeling and an emotion, and I think that while you're actually watching the film, it's very, very successful at that. It's not like an album I'm going to listen to. I keep referencing, because I really do think that this, like, if this had been made earlier, it's a Gene Kelly movie. Like, I see Ryan Gosling being Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain. But even Singing in the Rain, I was singing those songs for a couple days after, even after we recorded the episode. Because Singing in the Rain and Make 'Em Laugh are just two incredible songs.
Yeah, and I think something that was really weird, I think it's that this movie, the songs were very personal, obviously. Every song is very descriptive and very accurate to what's happening. But like, it also threw me off the second song in the movie when all the roommates are getting ready together. And like the music stops and they say the title of the song, Someone in a Crowd. And to me it was like, you're trying to drive that home, but it's just like, it's not that kind of song.
Yeah.
It just seemed some of the songs seemed like they were like, this is going to be the big one. And you could tell they thought it was going to be the big one. So they like kind of pushed it a little. Some of it just felt weird, but it works for the movie. I do want to emphasize that. Like, even though it's a little off and it's not The Greatest Showman, it's not Wicked, it's not Dear Evan Hansen or anything like that, it fits the style of the movie so well that you kind of accept it. And I actually I won't take any points away for the songs. I don't think it distracted from the movie. I think, this is so weird to say, I think it might have been better serviced with songs in different places. But I'm not going to take away for the songs being what they were.
I also feel like, kind of on that same note, like it was very music heavy at the beginning. Very song heavy towards the beginning. I feel like the last half was not as rich when it came to musical moments, but it was more rich with the relationship, and I think that that's a conscientious choice to make it, that's the focus there.
I completely agree.
Absolutely. But one thing I do want to talk about is the setting of the movie. Now, this is a modern set musical. It takes place in supposed to be modern day Los Angeles. However, I feel like it's really inconsistent in the fact that if you look at the costume design, if you look at some of the set design, it really feels like something out of an earlier Hollywood film, or like some of the dresses that Emma Stone will wear are like 50s looking, like he's wearing brown suits instead of like a black or a blue or even gray, which are more modern colors. It just feels kind of like the time setting kind of feels inconsistent, and I can't fault it too much though, because I feel like it's trying to make this a cohesive story, and the visuals are supposed to accompany it. Because I feel like if this went too far into the modern, right? Like if they had a song that incorporated, the Apple ringtone, like that would have been, it would have made it too cheesy. It wouldn't have been as sincere, or as even as heartfelt. And you get a touch of the modern in the very first song when there's the guys like riding the skateboard and jumping the BMX bike off the center of the highway. Which if people started doing that on the freeway in LA, like I'd just be mad. Like go.
That's like James Corden's crosswalk musical that he does, and everyone just gets mad in LA. Yeah. They do it at a red light, and when it turns green and they're all still performing, everyone just honks.
Yeah, like, okay, get great. Out of the way.
Yeah. I also thought in that scene where the guy opens up the back of the truck, it's like, one, I'm pretty sure that's a felony to just open someone's truck, like a moving truck like that. And then also, like, there's a band ready to play in the back of, like, a moving van.
Yeah, but, like, again...
Again, I'm not knocking points for it. I just thought when it opened, I was like, oh, so what? They're all just ready to play with their timpanis back there?
You don't travel with a steel drum band ready to go?
I do, but it's advertised.
Adrian Steel Drum Band.
That was an unmarked vehicle. Isn't that a law? You have to have your timpani band marked? You get pulled over, you have to let the police know that you're carrying a flute on you? Isn't that a thing?
Are you carrying anything? Well, I've got 2 saxophonists in the back, and I've got a xylophone.
And I do have a piccolo on my ankle.
But that's only for formal occasions.
Yeah. That's for stealth operations. Yeah, no, I mean it. Yeah, the first musical definitely was odd. I will say that Cassidy did not like this film at all. She started saying that about like 20 minutes in, and then by the end it was just like she was like, I just do not like this, and that's fine. It's just not. I don't know if it was her type of movie. If you're not in the mood for it, but something I want to talk about the style and the mixing of like setting and wardrobe and all that. Right, I think that this movie actually talks about what this movie was trying to do, which is to take something old, which is old Hollywood musicals, and teach and show them to the youth. And what that requires is keeping some of the old stuff, but also updating it and showing some new stuff and adding in some new things. So I think what they were talking about doing with jazz is actually what they were trying to do with the movie, which is to show like, hey, these type of movies are great. You just have to go and watch them. But because we can't just throw you into Singing in the Rain, especially a lot of modern day people just won't dive into that. They won't go into any of those older films. But
which
this,
by the way, you should. A lot of
you should, but that's what I think this movie was trying to do, is to be that film that goes, oh, that was really good. Maybe I do like this kind of film with dancing and singing and all this stuff. So I think what they were trying to do with to jazz in the movie, they were trying to do in real life with old Hollywood.
Exactly, and I think that's a very good delivery system. I don't know if it's intentional or not from the director to like kind of get people to watch these kinds of films or these older types of films, kind of like the way that Ryan Gosling gets Emma Stone to listen to jazz.
Yeah.
So, but anything else you want to talk about the film? Because I really don't have any other negative things. I really do like the opening aesthetic of the movie, how it goes to the old-time Summit logo, and then the CinemaScope comes on the screen and it expands out.
Oh. There were a couple of really cool shots towards the end. So a lot of the cinematography was neat. Some of it was a little like, okay, like, all right, that's a little artsy. Like, I get it. But one that, or a little bit of it that really nailed for me was one, there was a lot of, whip panning of the camera when like things were going fast with the jazz. And I thought that was really cool. I really liked that aesthetic. But when he's playing the piano and she's having like the flashback of what could have been, what their life would have been, and they show the scene of her auditioning and him in the other room from the side with a black and white silhouette, almost like stencils while it's happening, just silhouettes completely. I thought that was awesome. They did it a couple times during that montage. Super, super cool.
See, what was interesting, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I like the silhouette sequence when she comes back in the room and he's excited. For some reason in my head, like that was her getting her parents' approval for him or something like that. That's what I read.
Oh, no.
Now you say that, I see it clearly where I'm like, okay, it is the audition.
And I think what's so cool is it shows a lot, right? And that still, it shows her going after her dreams and him, one, divided by a wall. Like, he's literally away from it. He's not even in the room.
Yeah.
But he's sitting there supporting, waiting patiently. Like, he is present, but he's not even there, in a sense. And I just thought that, I almost want a poster of just that shot. I thought it was so cool. Because it's so different from every other shot in the film, and I think it's purposeful. It's to show, like, this was where the split happened. Like, she went for that audition, and they went separate ways immediately after this.
Yeah, I would be very interested, because there's that company that makes the posters that are long strips of, like, every frame in the film, and you can see how the colors change. I would love to see this one. I think it would be
It's a very
vibrant film.
It is, but then it also has, like, that color wash over the whole film. It's like a purplish gray.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, but it, definitely I could tell, like, there was a lot of color in the shot, but it wasn't, like, vivid. You know, none of the movie to me was very, like, oh, that's a bright yellow. It was like, oh, they're wearing yellow, but it looks normal. So it would be interesting to see that whole thing, but I love that one shot. I thought the 5 years later jump, initially, when that popped up, I went, that's a huge time cut. Like, this movie took place in a year, and now we're jumping 5. Like, that's crazy. But then it did make sense, and I loved the whole, like... Actually, I don't know if I thought it was really on the nose that she went into the coffee shop, and they did the exact same thing as they did for the other famous person in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I did notice that she ordered 2 coffees instead of one for just herself. And to me, I think that was saying that she's just, like, a more generous person, if I'm reading into it way too much. But I also think it's meant to lead you on that Ryan Gosling's in the car with her the whole time. Because it's all a lead up, and then you find out the big twist that she married and had a daughter.
Yeah. Which, at first, because now you say 5 years later, and I remember that now, because I think I was watching this on my phone for, I think, half the time. And
whoa.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. I rewatched most of it later anyway. But I thought it said 1 year later. And I was like, how did she have a kid that quickly and get all these career and these roles? And then I rewatched it and it said 5 years later, and I was like, oh, that's why.
And I also thought they did a great job, too, of when they're in the car going to see whoever's show, how Hollywood it is that they're like, what if we miss it? And she's like, we can always catch it in New York. And then it's like, do you want to just not go and go get dinner? And it's like, yeah, we'll just miss whoever's show that is. Like, not a big deal. But I do want to talk about my favorite moment of the entire film that I think was amazing is when her and her husband are in the Sebs. First of all, the walk-in, and you're like, is it going to be titled Sebs? Is this it? And it is, and you're like...
And it's the logo she designed.
Yeah, and the whole time they're walking in, you're like, is it? I need to see the logo. Did he do it? And he does, and you're like, that's perfect. So it feels really good. But when they're sitting there and they see each other, no words are shared, and then they go through the whole flashback, and then they leave. They get up to leave, which every single decision in that whole scene, you're like, does she want to stay? Does she want to go? Is she happy to be here and see him? Is she not? Like, very surrounded in mystery and very up to interpretation. But then right before she leaves, they make eye contact, and then Ryan Gosling smiles. And then she smiles, and it's literally just that knowledge that they're like, yes, I will always love you, like they said, but, like, you go live your life. It's okay. Like, we have done it. And I love that they didn't have a conversation. There wasn't one big blow up. She didn't leave her husband. Yeah. It was just an agreement that they knew each other, and it was like, go ahead. Like, we may never see each other again, but we know. And it was great.
That was the twist that I wasn't expecting. I thought she would have left her husband, or...
her daughter really got me hung up. I was like, there's no way she's just going to leave a daughter.
Well, it's like we know Hollywood. We know all these actors leave each other and get back together and go with other actors. So it's like, you're like, okay, maybe she will leave him, But no, I was not expecting it.
That's the other thing, too, is they didn't paint the new dad as a bad dude in any capacity. Like, great with the kid. Really, they got along really well. He was super spontaneous, just like her. Like, they were just walking along. He's like, oh, you want to go check out jazz? Like, super just a normal dude. They didn't paint anyone as the bad guy. It was just about how life can take different paths.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. Again, the music iffy, but I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. And that scene at the end where they look at each other, and you could tell that entire films were played in the span of thoughts that went between them in that moment.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like acceptance. Yeah, it was acceptance of each other and the lives that they're about to lead and all this stuff. And it was just like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
And exactly. It was awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly, I've already talked about it. My favorite sequence was still the beginning. I think just because I didn't know what to expect coming into this movie after the years of like letting the hype die down, and I was like, okay, my initial thoughts were, let's get this over with. I don't know if I'm gonna like it because musicals are very hit or miss with me. I like some, I love some, I hate some, I really don't like some. And so I went, I was like, okay, let's just watch it and see what happens. And in the first 5 minutes, my foot is already tapping, and I'm like, okay, we're good. And that's the movie that's the scene that solidified it for me from the very beginning. And I should have known from the director of Whiplash. Like, it's...
Oh, J.K. Simmons. Can we talk about the feature? So he was in it, and that was fine. He's like the rude boss who fires him. But at the end, when he's dancing, I was like, J.K. Simmons, get out of here! You can't dance jazz. And like, he looked so. I mean, it worked, but it was just so funny seeing him from Whiplash and being the upset boss to being like just dancing. It was so funny. But yeah, I mean, he did great. I mean, he was in it for such a small role, but he did a good job.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's the acting was all really good. I don't think we talked about that at all.
Yeah, it's carried by Emma and Ryan. And
absolutely. And it's even amazing in like the bad audition she has, where she's like crying on the phone.
And she stops.
But it's like amazing acting.
Yeah.
And it's like
that's why she won Best Actress.
No, I know, but I mean, it's like, that's her bad audition in the movie. It's like that's not good. And we're watching it, or I was watching it, and I was like, she's a really good actress. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like, and you think about it in the scope of the movie, and it's like, that's probably for like a toothpaste commercial or something. Like, it's not even a big role.
What toothpaste commercial is like, oh my god, is he... Oh my god, she's crying.
He didn't use Colgate.
Crest. It won't drink and drive. Sorry, was that too crazy?
Well, on that note, let's go ahead.
Crest, we're not sponsored by Crest, but if you want to after that, we are definitely open.
We're seeking that toothpaste, that ad money. We're really looking for it. But that being said, let's go ahead and drop some final thoughts and some scores. Adrian, what are your final thoughts? What's your score for La La Land?
My final thoughts are, I think it's really good. I think the music is hit or miss. I get why it won. I feel like the songs were packaged in a great movie. It's not a movie I think you just dive into if you don't know that you want to watch it. I think you need to like be in the mood to watch something like it. I think it's very niche in terms of what it went for, and I get why it won a bunch of awards. But yeah, the music's a little hit or miss for me. The storyline, the relationships, the reality, and the realisticness of this movie is great and phenomenal. The relationships are incredible, and because of that, I gave this movie an 89. I totally get why it got all the praise that it gets, and I've talked a lot about how good it was. But yeah, the music, and I'm not taking away from it. Music's a hit or is a miss for me. But I also think there's better intro musicals. If that's what you're trying to get into, then there's better intros that exist for that. If you're trying to get into old Hollywood stuff, this fits right in that category.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you're going for, and that's why it's just not like 100 or anything crazy, because I think it depends on what you want this movie to be for you and what you'll get out of it. It's going to be unique for every person.
Yeah, and if you're watching movies like, The Greatest Showman or more, and I use that as an example because it's one of the more poppy ones, right? It's one of the more popular culture
Every
ones.
song on that album is a slap, for sure.
To some. But that's easier to get into than this movie is, because this is made for people who have an appreciation of Hollywood and older style films. But it's also, I feel like you could just dive into this one and enjoy it. It's all personal.
I think it's almost going to be, I would almost relate a lot of this movie to Marriage Story, with Adam Driver, like the pacing of it. If you've seen Marriage Story, it's a lot like that. Like it is exciting to watch a relationship unfold, but it is a little bit of a more like drama, slow-paced progression.
Yeah, but my final thoughts. I thought La La Land is a gorgeous and moving musical throwback to old-style Hollywood films. I thought it was an absolute joy to watch, and I was happier after watching it than I was before it. So it actually, increased my mood. I will say the music is not memorable, and that's where it loses points for me. I wasn't singing any of the songs. I wasn't thinking about any of them. But that being said, I still think it is a great film. I definitely see why it's a Best Picture nominee. And because of that, I give it a 92. So I'm actually really close in terms of score to you.
And I do want to say, I agree that the music is not memorable, but the movie is.
Yes.
Like, I feel like I will remember the plot forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was incredibly memorable. But yeah, the music, I agree, is very forgettable. I won't be humming the songs or anything like that.
Yeah, I will be remembering the shots. I'll be remembering the acting more than I will be remembering City of Stars or... I don't even know the names of the other songs. Like, that's just...
Literally. Oh, I know. Someone in the Crowd.
Oh, that's right, because they say it like 6 times during the chorus of the song. But that's going to bring us to an end for this episode of The Drive Back. Adrian, where can people find us online?
You can find us at The Drive Back Podcast everywhere online. If you see me and I see you in there, hello, then you're here on YouTube, and you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell. We post every Monday. And we also have exclusive content here on YouTube that's like additional reviews, short form videos. Sometimes we'll showcase like our video collection. We're working on a couple of little videos like that. That'll only be available here. The Drive Back Podcast, you'll find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere, Stitcher, whatever you use. And go ahead and make sure to follow there. Again, we post our full-length podcast there every Monday. And then if you're looking to actually talk with us or hang out, we do have a pretty active Instagram called The Drive Back Podcast. You guessed it. You can go ahead and sign up there and follow us, and we post whenever we have new posts. That's like middle of the week. We just give you a reminder, hey, this is what we covered this week. Go ahead and check it out. You can comment there if you thought it was good, if we're right, wrong, if we're dumb, if we're really smart about it. Let us know, because movies are an opinion, and the appreciation for them is also one. So everyone's free to have it, and we'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, very important note is that, again, just to get this point across, because it's been, so many episodes now, all critiques that we give are all personal opinions. So, like, what I think of a movie, what Adrian thinks of a movie, we could be vastly different from each other, and vastly different from you. It's personally just what we thought in our personal opinion. So,
except mine.
Yours is
yeah.
But that being said, next week we have our State of Comedy episode. It's going to be a discussion. We haven't had a discussion for a while. We're going to be talking about the comedy genre, why we're not getting as many films in it anymore, why, just the state of the genre as a whole. So make sure you tune in for that. Nothing to watch for next week. No homework. But other than that, you can follow, as we said, all of us on social media. We also have my blog where I post new release reviews all the time, and also my catch-up posts because I watch a movie every single day. So I post mini reviews for those on there as well, because we don't get to watch everything on this show because there's just way too many freaking movies out there. So other than that, because we are doing comedy next week, also quick shout out or quick thing. Unfortunately, the comedian Norm Macdonald did pass away this week. So quick little, in memory of him. We'll talk a little bit more about his contribution next week, I feel like, because he's just one of the funniest comedians ever. Also, we forgot to mention about Michael Kenneth Williams, who did pass away a couple weeks back. So, a quick little mention for both of them. But other than that, we will see you next week here on The Drive Back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we love you. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.